What earthly place is this? So many hills and a big red bridge. It's hot. All anyone eats are those icky green smoothies. What are all the donuts?
Oh, San Fran really goes all out on the decorations. I'm looking forward to that bicycle rental we have for our waterfront tour tomorrow. I'll need to relax after all this excitement.
Shimamura, the map says we need to go this way.
But look at all the people, Adachi. I think that's the parade over there.
Oh, I guess so. Alright, let's go.
Ah, that's Shimamura over there with Adachi. But she looks so different.
Shimamura.
Why did you stop, Adachi? Are you nervous?
Yes. No. Pride is... It's not like any festival we've been to in Japan, you know?
Oh. Give me your hand, Adachi. We don't have to do or be anything we don't want to be, all right?
Woo! Woo! Finally! A dinner shop! It's time for something sweet. I'll find them later.
Shimamura, you look different today. Special. It feels like we really are out, you know?
We're on vacation. Let's be out and be proud and have fun. You look so cute with that rainbow on your cheek. And if you be brave and enjoy yourself, I'll reward you later, okay?
Oh, okay. It's a promise.
Why did you need a vacation to have fun? Some things about Earlings I'll never understand. Oh well. Hi everyone. Welcome to Volume 8 of Adachi and Shimamura, where lots of new experiences are in store. Ho ho ho! What kind you say? Well, let's just say the kind that are made from destiny. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Doki Reading Club channel. Now grab your number one friend and settle in because it's time to Edashima and chill. Whee! Chapter 1. You're there.
Whenever I go visit home, all my parents ever talk about is the past.
Right.
I used to wonder why, but honestly, it makes perfect sense. You see, for people of their age, the past is longer than the future. That's what makes them talk about it so much.
I see.
I wonder, will there come a day when that's all we do? Talk about the days gone?
I thought about it.
I don't think that'd be a bad thing.
Perhaps not.
This was a conversation we were having as we arranged our luggage. Well, that's what I was doing at least. As for Adachi, she was currently watching TV on the sofa. Apparently, she will be finishing her packing later that night. The show that was playing was one of those educational programs. A child wearing a spacesuit I was sure I recognized from somewhere stood side by side with a man dressed in all white. The latter of whom was in the middle of explaining something. The child was simply ribbling about. I wonder, how much attention was Adachi paying to the show? Like 50%? Less than that. The tingling warmth of May seeped in through the window screens. The air wasn't quite as moist as it was during summer, and also didn't make me not want to move forward in the same way. All in all, I felt about the season exactly like I had last year when it came around. I chose to interpret that as a positive. If the very way I felt about seasons themselves were to change each passing year, then that would have meant that there was something really messed up going on in my life. The apartment we were currently in was the one the two of us had rented. We'd chosen it together, and we lived there together. Same went for groceries, household goods, and fittings. Also snores and jobs. All of them we had for two. Adachi and I were both 27 years old. If nothing else, that was still young enough for me to believe that my future was going to be longer than my past. After one last time checking that I'd gotten everything, I closed my bag shut. I closed it like I was crushing it and made sure that it stayed that way. I can only hope that it wasn't going to shoot up open and it sounded like one of those Jack in a Box or whatever. Not before we got to the hotel, at least. I found myself wondering if I should perhaps write myself a note to make sure that I didn't forget and open it by accident. Tomorrow, we'd be leaving for the vacation we'd been planning for some time now. Our destination, overseas. This will mark the first time I'd ever traveled beyond the country. That was to say, there was a lot more to this vacation than what it might seem at first glance. I could feel a rush of emotions and sentiments flow through me as I thought about it.
When was the last time we went somewhere?
Our high school trip, maybe?
If nothing else, that was the last one I could remember. Assuming it was the right answer, then that means that it had been 8, 9, somewhere around 10 years ago since then. It was almost the longest we'd known each other for.
The school trip, huh?
She
How nostalgic.
mattered.
Do you remember how it went, Adachi? Like, what did we do out there?
No, I can't. I've forgotten.
Really? Because to me it sounded like you were just reminiscing about it.
She gave me no follow-up. Under normal circumstances, I would have taken this opportunity to walk up to her and pinch her ears or her cheeks or whatever. But since there was no time for that, I instead moved on to filling the next bag. Unlike Adachi, I couldn't simply take it slow and wait for tomorrow to come. Why? Because I needed to go visit my parents before we left. I received a notification telling me to show up at home before the May holidays came to an end. Considering that we were about to go on vacation, that left me with only the first day to do that. It was for that reason why I was getting ready so well ahead of time. My lack of travel experience was really showing itself. Before I knew it, I ended up packing my bags full of all sorts of junk. It was quite a challenge picking and choosing what to get rid of, only to realize that the bags were now empty again and having to start again.
You're not going to visit your parents, Adachi?
No, I'm good.
Having said that, she then changed the channel. What appeared on the screen was a bird singing on a solitary island. They also showed some birds that could be found just near where we lived. So that was what they were called? I had no idea. The next time I went out on a walk, I was definitely going to be paying extra attention to the birds above me. See? Learning new things was never a bad thing. Adachi had not gone to visit her parents once since we'd moved here. Perhaps that was for the best given their relationship. While I would likely have felt lonely, had I been in her shoes, choosing how to view the situation was ultimately up to none other than Adachi herself. It was hardly the case that all matters could be settled once you became an adult. If anything, it felt to me like I was constantly coming up with new ways of ignoring problems that I really ought to tackle at some point. There were even times when I found myself thinking that getting smarter with the years was nothing more than a curse. I ended up opening the fridge as I passed by it, with my back on my shoulder. As I was going to be it was going to be a while since someone next used it, we'd made sure to empty it. Memories of the noodle dress with ketchup Adachi had cooked last night came back to me as I closed the door. Discuss a wave of cold air to gently stroke the left half of my face, which, honestly, felt really nice. There was nothing in the fridge. Not even tea. This left me with no choice but to drink water instead. Why was it that I could always take the disinfectants whenever I drank it here? Was it because at my parents' place the tap water came from deep underground? Perhaps. Whatever the case, the way water tastes was the one thing about living in the city that I still hadn't gotten used to, and probably never would. After filling both the remaining suitcase as well as my shoulder bag with luggage, I quickly turned towards the front door. The sound of my footsteps prompted Adachi to get up and come see me off. If I had to point out one thing about Adachi that was different compared to the past, it'd probably be her hair. It was a lot longer now.
In addition to that, there was something else about her. Something that I didn't quite know how to put into words that made her look a lot more mature. Her face gave off a certain sense of cool, and as far as her attitude went, well, she'd definitely calmed down since her high school days. I wasn't ashamed to admit that there were times when I found myself reminiscent about the way she'd gone all out back then. How she'd always been giving it her absolute best. Not to say that she didn't get like these days, because she absolutely did. As long as you gave her a push first.
All right then. See you at the airport.
Yeah.
That was how I decided to do it. I would go straight there from my parents' place instead of coming back here first.
It makes sense when you think about it.
Does it really?
Adachi proceeded to tilt her head to the side in a way that clearly implied that she didn't agree. I distinctly remembered that back in the day, it was always Adachi who would say stuff like this. I wonder, when was it that we'd switch roles? She was now the one acting cool and collected, although as mentioned earlier, that was only on the surface.
Personally, I always choose the option that lets us spend as much time together as possible. That said, I do believe the vacation will make up for one day spent without you.
It honestly felt kind of embarrassing having her say that to me. And it was for that reason that I chose to act cool. I could feel my neck tingling. A few moments later, Adachi's ears began to redden. Her skin then assumed a tone matching that of flowers of a sakura tree. Quite the fit for her name. Truly, how nostalgic. It really did seem like for a second, Adachi had returned to her high schooler self.
That's not fair, Shimamura. You say something embarrassing too.
Now she was just being unreasonable. It was almost as if she'd been stabbed with a sword, and her reaction to it was to try and push it back.
I wonder which one to pick.
You have options ready?
Adachi appeared quite astonished. Of course I didn't. I wouldn't need to think about it if I did. What to do? I was starting to get a little desperate when something came to me.
The other day, I accidentally put on your underwear?
The messed up I decided to expose was one I'd committed a certain morning while rushing to get dressed after oversleeping and running late from work. It took Adachi a few moments to react. It was almost as if my words had caused her to turn into stone.
And where did you go?
To work.
She paused again.
And that's embarrassing?
It is for me.
I'd been so incredibly confused when I realized that the underwear I had on didn't belong to me but to someone else. Soon enough, I realized that I'd seen it while doing laundry, and that had helped me calm down. Ha! I figured that I could simply sneak it into the laundry basket once I got back home and never talk about it to anyone. And now I told Adachi. Not that she was really reacting. After a few moments, Adachi at last let out a laugh.
You seriously have no elegance, Shimamura.
What did you say?
Never had I expected such a rebuttal. It was as if she'd peered right into my mind. We continued talking for some time, until eventually I decided that it was time for me to get going.
Well then, see you tomorrow.
Sure.
Once more, I repeated my words from earlier. I was of the opinion that positive promises such as this one could be repeated as many times as you wanted. The fact that I was able to talk with someone about tomorrow, it was simply wonderful. I opened the door, but right as I was about to step outside, a panicked voice called to me.
The underwear. What color was it?
The voice, of course, belonged to Adachi, currently standing at attention for whatever reason.
And what would you do with that information, Adachi?
Tomorrow marked the beginning of our first trip together. I would have been lying if I said that I wasn't excited. The thing that immediately shocked me as I got there was the fact that the front door wasn't locked. A sight left my mouth. Truly, these people were too trusting. I was just about to press the doorbell when I noticed something even more shocking tottering my way. That something was a shark with a rice ball in her hand. And not just any shark, but a bipedal one?
Ah, I knew it. I knew it. It was you, Shimamura.
The shark stated. A grin then formed on her face.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
As tended to happen every time I came to visit, Yashiro was the first person to greet me. I decided to pick her up to see if I still could. She wasn't heavy at all. Really, it felt like I was lifting a cloud.
What? Ah,
The way she swung her limbs around made it clear that she was having quite a bit of fun. A decade later, she was still exactly how she'd been when I first met her. Her height, her hair, her smile. They were all the same. The only change was that, instead of a lion pajama, she now wore a shark one. She had a habit of changing those quite frequently. Regardless, whether she was in the sea or on the shore, the fact remained that her head was always being eaten.
It has been a while.
No, it really hasn't.
We'd last met a mere 2 days ago. For whatever reason, she'd been at our place when I came home. She'd stayed a while and eaten some food, after which she had been on her way. Adachi too had more or less gotten used to having her around, it seemed. And occasionally, I would catch her feeding her as if she was some sort of a stray animal. The distance between my parents' house and our apartment didn't seem to matter to her in the slightest. She could show up whenever she wanted to, just like that. I was given the impression that, unlike most people, Yashiro was not bound by concepts such as time or distance, or relationships for that matter. In some ways, that was exactly what I had been dreaming of. If only I could live like that, like she is. If only.
What's up with that rice ball?
It's my snack.
It's filled with seaweed, she went on to explain. Oh, not that it really mattered.
Well, do you like a bite?
Sure, why not?
I opened my mouth wide.
Just one bite.
Yeah.
The salty flavor that immediately filled my mouth let me know that this rice ball had been produced locally. I could feel my mouth wandering to the sports days I had attended back when I was still a student. The later ones were one thing, but the initial ones that had taken place while I was in elementary school. I remembered myself having been so incredibly excited for them, like scars that had healed over time but were still visible. That sensation of the passion that lingered within me, rushing to the surface, still remained with me. Yashiro proceeded to take a bite out of the remaining rice ball. Given how small her face was, she really did have quite a large mouth.
Eating this rifle has made my stomach 10% full.
That's not much.
She was the sort of creature who already needed more food after only 100 or so steps.
I've been meaning to ask, what's up with this pajama you're wearing?
Oh, well, she gave it to me.
The girl stated, all the while flopping her fin from side to side.
But why this?
Now that I thought about it, that girl had always liked sea animals, hadn't she? Well, not that it had anything to do with this. Probably.
I let Yashiro down, and then picked my bag back up. As for the girl, she quickly licked her fingers clean of any rice grains before tottering off. I followed her into the living room, and there, I saw my sister, sitting in front of the TV with her legs spread. The sound of Yashiro's footsteps prompted her to turn her head, after which she shifted her attention to me. She didn't seem particularly shocked, nor surprised.
Oh, sis, you're back?
Just got here.
When Yachi ran off, I figured she was just going to go get sweets or something.
Come here, the girl gestured to Yashiro with her arms open. And she did just that. And after sitting between my sister's legs, what she got for her efforts was a cookie. Sounds of delight filled the room as the cookie, shaped like an animal, disappeared inside her mouth. It had to be quite the treat to make even a shark want to gulp it down. Still, I had to wonder, how had Yashiro known to come greet me before I rang the doorbell? The image that came to my mind was that of a dog, or a cat, all of a sudden turning their head to look above them when there was nothing there.
Where's Mom?
In the kitchen.
I focused my ears, and among the sounds of the TV, I could hear mixed in a knife hitting a cutting board. After placing my bag in the corner of the room, I went ahead and sat down slightly off to the side behind my sister. Viewing her from this angle, she really did look like me back when I'd been in high school. The length of her hair, the way she carried herself, they were all the same. It was honestly kind of strange looking at her. Then again, given that I'd never seen myself from behind, it might have been a case of me simply making things up. I had always been of the opinion that it would have been for the best if she didn't grow up to be like me. But I suppose this was where we were now. Like a ball rolling, she had filled the hole left in my wake. My sister used her finger to lift Yashiro's shark hood. This revealed the girl's hair, blue like the ocean and covered in particles of light. Laughing, she went ahead and stroked it, causing strands of hair to pass over her fingers as if they were waves. She then took out another cookie and placed it into Yashiro's mouth, and immediately she began munching on it. Although the difference in height between the two was much larger than it had been in the past, it appeared that they were still just as close. If anything, it felt to me like it was much easier to make sense of them now than it had been back then.
You'd probably be better off not overfeeding her.
10 years late, yes, but I decided I'd say it anyways. Regardless, my sister didn't seem to share my concerns.
But she's just so cute.
Aren't you? She followed as she shifted her attention towards Yashiro.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The girl asked back while munching on the cookie. Her eyes opened wide in a very innocent manner. Just like how they had been back in the day, the two still very much looked like a pair of sisters, one older and one younger, even if they weren't actually that far off in terms of age.
It looks like Mom's really taken to her too.
You can't live off of just being cute.
That being said, thinking about it more, she did resemble a household pet in a lot of ways. Dogs especially were cute.
We told the neighbors that she's from overseas.
Overseas, huh?
Hey, I come from the sea. Haha.
I wasn't really sure what she meant by that. Was she talking about the ocean of stars, also known as space? Perhaps. Whatever the case, just kept on munching her cookie, this one shaped like a frog. Doing so revealed her teeth and showed that they too shone with the same blue light as her eyes did. Truly, what a mysterious creature she was.
The ocean.
I was going to be crossing one come tomorrow. I wonder, what would that be like? It kind of made me feel fluffy inside, imagining it being similar to flying through a TV screen. Would I be able to find other creatures like Yashiro there? I suppose we'd see soon.
Is it too much to ask that you greet me when you come home?
Someone smacked me on the head. I quickly moved to turn around, only to be smacked again before I could. The repeated smacks were really starting to annoy me. I turned around to put an end to them, this time for real, and there above me, I saw Mom smacking my head, both of her hands. The woman paused for a second, only to then go for my forehead. Thankfully, I was ready this time, and as such, managed to fling her attack off. Mom quickly gave up on trying and stood up straight. What remained was the smell of raw onion.
Hey, say it. Say the greeting.
She demanded, with her palm turned up. What she was doing here, it really made me want to do the opposite.
I'm home.
That said, given that I didn't have a clever comeback or anything like that prepared, I kinda had to.
Welcome. See, that wasn't so hard. Seriously, where have your manners disappeared?
I was going to do it. I just hadn't gotten to it yet.
Huh?
What a rude reaction. Mom then turned around and ran back inside the kitchen. While the woman could certainly have chosen nicer words, it was true that in the end, the fault lay within me.
Wow! Sis, you're not making any progress.
Mom was always getting angry at me whenever I came to visit, just like she had done in the past. As for my sister, she too appeared to still enjoy making fun of me. Back in the day, such a statement would have earned her a hefty punishment, but now, I found getting up to do it to be too much of a hassle. I suppose that was the essence of becoming an adult. At some point, I had let go of the rope of youth that bound us together.
And that's it. That's all the cookies.
The girl stated as she tossed the last one into Yashiro's mouth. She proceeded to munch it down with very exaggerated movements.
Back when I was in high school still, I used to spend, what? A third of my allowance on yachi snacks? Something like that.
The way she said that led me to believe that I didn't actually mind it all that much.
Oh, well, I guess there is something nice about being able to buy happiness. Especially when it doesn't cost much.
She continued, this time doing so while pulling on Yashiro's cheeks. The sound of her laughing filled the room as her face stretched like a piece of mochi. I couldn't help but nod my head as I stared at the two. They seemed so satisfied. And it wasn't like I didn't understand where she was coming from. Me spending the money I earned on Adachi, it was basically the same thing. What we were having for dinner that evening was okonomiyaki with noodles and eggs.
Oh, fried stuff.
Yes, isn't that what you like?
Well, it is, but still.
I like it too.
I do.
Yashiro raised her hand. Was there anything that she didn't like? Not as far as I could tell. Yashiro was currently occupying the chair that I had used to use. It was the chair right next to my sister's, and thinking about it that way, it kinda made sense. In any case, this left me sitting where Dad would have been.
Where's Dad?
He's out fishing with the old man from next door.
He really likes doing that, doesn't he?
I wasn't sure when exactly it had happened, but at some point, Dad had gotten completely hooked on fishing. It was to the point where he'd randomly yell out stuff like, "Got one!" when walking down the hallway. Was that really a good thing? I wonder. Putting all that aside, it sure was nice being home. I could lay down and, soon enough, food would simply show up. What a wonderful thing indeed. That was what I thought to myself as I took a bite out of the okonomiyaki. The sweet taste of cabbage and onions quickly filled my mouth. At the same time... Huh? I tilted my head to the side. I used my chopsticks to cut a piece from a different section and tossed that into my mouth. It was delicious, yes, but there was something missing.
But the okonomiyaki doesn't have any meat in it.
No, it doesn't. I thought we might have some left in the fridge, but as it turns out, we didn't.
Mom laughed calmly. On a closer inspections, the noodles too were all cabbage and no meat.
It's like in that old show. Sauce beam, seaweed flash!
Don't worry, don't worry. Okay, happy, she added, putting an end to the topic.
Okay. It happens often.
Watching my sister quietly slurp her noodles, I got the impression that she was more than used to this.
Well, whatever.
Was this what people meant by the unique taste of home cooking? Possibly. Next up, I went ahead and tried out the eggs. These ones were not supposed to contain meat in the first place. The sweet, fried taste of them enveloped both my teeth and my heart. Truly, this tasted like home. And yet, the one clearly enjoying it the most was not a member of our family, but rather a stranger who had lived here for nearly 10 years.
It must be fate.
Given your appearance, I am shocked how shameless you are.
I found myself feeling slightly out of place as I stared at her. It was as if the plates and pots might start speaking any second now. As for Yashiro herself, she didn't seem to pay any attention to me. Rather, she just kept on munching. A few moments after we were done eating, my sister, who had always been sitting with us, got up.
All right. Yachi! Let's go take a bath!
Having said that, she then grabbed Yashiro's hand.
No, I'm good for today.
No. You're not.
The girl's attempts at escaping were met by my sister dragging her away by the nape of the neck. You can wiggle all you want, little shark, but you're not getting away. Then again, I kinda doubted that she was actually even trying. With her prey in her hand, my sister turned around to look at me. It almost felt like I was staring at my old self. Well, not that I'd ever seen myself like that, but still.
Well, I feel like I now understand how you used to see me, sis.
Her eyes narrowed slightly as she said that. I was left with the impression that this was a fond memory to her.
You do?
Yep. Now then, let's go, Yachi.
My sister then began running. It wasn't an easy task making a shark take a bath.
How did I look at her?
Like a little sister, perhaps? The answer wasn't coming to me. And honestly, that was kind of freaking me out. Obviously, there was no way that I could ask her to give me an example. That'd just be way too pathetic. Though the TV had been left on, the show that was playing barely registered in my mind. I was far too preoccupied thinking about my sister's words. As it turned out, it was quite difficult spotting the obvious.
Huh?
That wasn't me sighing. I lifted my head, and there, I saw Mom standing.
Yes?
I heard you were going overseas on a vacation?
The way she phrased her question really confused me. For whatever reason, it sounded like she was asking me about this for the first time.
I'm pretty sure we just talked about this on the phone not that long ago.
Yes, I know. I remember.
The woman then proceeded to shrug her shoulders. Seriously, what was up with her? I could barely remember the last time she managed to confuse me this badly.
And
Right.
Despite herself having been the one to bring up the topic, she was left simply tilting her head to the side.
Well, whatever.
She then walked off. Apparently, that settled it for her.
huh? What?
There really was no making sense of this woman. And I don't mean just in terms of her behavior and what she did. I was just as incapable of wrapping my head around the way her appearance changed. From the very moment I was born, both of my parents had already been adults. Not only that, they'd been so until my death. This was to say, even now, 10 years later, I truly struggle to point out anything about her that was different. I guess her hair looked a bit wider than it had previously, But that was pretty much it. Not that I'd ever dare to say something like that to her. Who knows? She might end up pinching my eyelids and stretching them out or something crazy like that. After spending some more time watching TV and coming to the conclusion that I really couldn't focus on whatever program it was that was currently playing, I went ahead and turned the device off. I then opened the glass door leading to the garden outside, and instantly, I could feel the cold night wind on the tip of my nose. I sat on the floor and let the wind blow past me. It was still far too early to be getting excited. I was at my parents' house, and yet, with each hour that passed, I could feel myself losing what remained of my cool. I wonder, had I felt this way the day before our school trip as well? A few moments passed until I could hear the footsteps behind me. I quickly turned around. No longer was the girl tottering towards me a shark.
Wow. That's pretty fancy.
What she now had on was a blue yukata. Her hair appeared to still be wet, and as she ran forward, she sprinkled droplets of water all around her. These droplets too carried with them the same glimmer her hair did.
Mommy gave this to me to sleep in.
I was really starting to get the feeling that all of her clothes were ones that had been given to her. Well, I guess it was true that if you simply left her on her own, she probably wouldn't wear anything.
Mommy?
Yes, and I become good friends with Daddy too. Sometimes I go fishing with him.
Mommy? Daddy? Are you talking about my parents?
Yes, Yashiro nodded. She then sat down on the floor next to me.
I asked them what I should tell them, and that's what they told me to say.
In case you're curious, I had always called them Mom and Dad, even when I was little. The same was true of my sister. I just found the terms Mommy and Daddy to be really embarrassing for some reason. It was to the point where simply hearing someone else use them was enough to make me feel uncomfortable.
You're all so kind, drinkless Shimamura.
I guess so.
It was difficult to imagine someone who wasn't kind treating a child who'd basically shown up from nowhere this way. Was it perhaps the case that, in moments like these, good intentions took precedence over worries? Putting aside whether it was smart to let a stranger child into your house in the first place, the one we discovered was that Yashiro showed no signs of returning to whatever home she had come from. She also didn't grow any older, no matter how many years went by. That was, how to put it, perfect for us? Or was it not for me to say?
Mommy gives me slices of cabbage every now and then.
That just means she doesn't know how to treat you.
Did she perhaps think that Yashiro was a rabbit or something? We spent the next few moments like that, with the wind cooling me down from one side and Yashiro warming me from the other. What did I mean by that? Well, you see, the girl's nose and cheeks were bright red and were practically radiating with warmth. They also emitted light, which is why I could tell their color in the first place, despite it being dark outside. I once again found myself shocked. What sort of a creature was she even? I was certain that I was not going to find someone else like her beyond the seas.
I'm leaving on a vacation tomorrow. I'm going overseas.
Oh.
The way she reacted sounded kind of random at first. However, it did not take long for her true desires to surface.
I'll be waiting for a souvenir.
I kinda expected you to say that.
Staring at her as she stared back at me with a glimmer in her eyes, I really did feel like I understood how my sister felt when she bought her sweets. The amount of pure and innocent joy she showed, it was not accessible to normal people. To reach it, you first had to be as simple-minded as she was.
Still, it is strange.
Strange?
Yes.
Gently stroking Yashiro's hair, I went ahead and explored my feelings. Back when we were still children and in high school, neither Adachi nor I could have ever traveled overseas. We just lacked the ability to go anywhere all that far. And yet, now we could. We could go anywhere our hearts desired. Just like there's no one telling us to do it, there's also no one stopping us. We had to make these decisions ourselves. We had to choose our own path. At some point, I'd stopped being a child and had become an adult instead. That was not meant to be a smooth transition. You were supposed to one day get up and leap over the gap. And yet, I couldn't remember when I'd done so.
I wonder, when did it happen that I became an adult?
I wasn't sure why I had decided to say that out loud. It wasn't like I was speaking to anyone in particular.
Well, was it perhaps when you met Adachi?
Being a creature straight out of a fairy tale, whose only concern in life was getting more sweets to eat, Yashiro couldn't exactly sympathize with my worries. That was why her reply came out so casually. Really, the fact alone that she'd given me one in the first place really shocked me. Never had I expected her to be the sort of person to reply to other people's philosophical quandaries.
No matter their reality, you and Adachi are always fated to meet.
The girl followed.
It sounded like mere idle gossip to me, like something she'd pick up from somewhere else. Given that no one had the ability to go back and relive their life, there could only exist one reality. Regardless, as Yashiro had not tried to excessively quote her words, I decided to meet her on her own simple terms.
Really?
Yes, she nodded back. Her reply made it sound like this wasn't all that big of a deal to her. For whatever reason, I found myself wanting to believe her.
That always marks the moment when you begin to change, Shimamura.
The tiny girl's hand pressed against my shoulder. It was not the fin of a shark or the paw of a lion, but the hand of Yashiro.
Truly a good encounter.
Why did she sound so proud of herself as she laughed? I wasn't really sure. I couldn't help but think that it would have made Adachi really happy hearing that had she been here. On some level, it felt like such a waste to me.
Now that I think about it, yeah, you said something similar when we first met.
Yes?
Did she perhaps not remember? That was certainly what the way her head rested tilted to the side seemed to imply.
You told me that I'd been born so that I could meet you.
Indeed.
Again, her reply came out extremely swiftly, almost without any delay at all. So, she did remember after all? The conversation soon continued.
The reason why this world exists is because you met me.
Huh? And what do you mean by that?
Well, you see, the thing we call the world isn't actually all that flexible. Who is born? What sort of events take place? What you eat daily? Those things are mostly the same across all possible realities. For a banana to be a banana, it first needs the allocations to make it a banana. Do you understand what I'm saying? The world already has those allocations predefined, and as such, cannot function in a way that doesn't match them. It simply isn't possible. That is why most realities are mostly the same. You meeting Adachi, that too is something that happened because of the way the world is set up.
Her voice just as innocent as ever. Her tone like that of a child. Yashiro quickly took on a form far more bothersome than usual. To be perfectly honest with you, only about half of what she said actually entered my mind. I felt like I needed a blackboard in front of me for this.
The one thing separating those other realities from this one is that I am here. My presence is what makes the difference.
Huh.
Me, the girl repeated. Her hair, appearing slightly deeper in its blue tone than usual thanks to the darkness spreading around us, swayed from side to side as she did so.
There is no one else, only me.
I wasn't sure why, but in a weird way, I almost got what she meant. It was one of those things that was impossible to put to words.
You're a real big shot then, huh?
Ha ha!
Nothing about the way she spoke gave me the impression of timidity. Was that due to courage? Or perhaps overconfidence? That, or maybe for Yashiro, the concept of the world was something that she understood perfectly. Devices such as the TV or the phone might be scary at first when you didn't know how they function, but once you did, you quickly realized that there was nothing to be afraid of there. Perhaps it was like that to her? Not that I could really say for certain. Moving along.
Well, more accurately, I will be talking about our existence. I am here because you are Shimamura. That might seem like the same thing at glance, but what's important is that it had to be you. No one else would have sufficed. That is the reason why I believe that you were born to meet me.
Well, individual words that Yashiro was using weren't all that complicated on their own. When you put them together like this, the whole thing kind of went over my head. All in all, this topic was one that wasn't nearly as easy to accept as the way she said it made it out to be. Truly, there was nothing more difficult than conveying something to another person without them misunderstanding you. Concept of sincerity could only exist when it went both ways.
So, in other words, it's destiny then.
Yes, destiny.
That familiar word all by itself turned our complicated relationship so simple.
I get you that far, but beyond it, I don't really understand.
Huh? But it's so simple.
Once more, the girl placed her hand on my shoulder. She appeared just as proud of herself as she had the last time she'd done it.
Yeah, truly a good encounter.
Was that it? I found myself averting my eyes. What was it that I'd gained after meeting Yashiro? Let's assume that she was speaking the truth. Let's assume that I had been born so that I could meet her. So then, again, what had I accomplished? This line of thinking was not going to lead anywhere. It was all hypothetical, based on mere assumptions. And yet, for whatever reason, I found myself incredibly curious about it. The small sparkle of light off in the distance continued to twinkle. The only question I knew how to answer was one far more mundane. Had I, or had I not found it fun meeting Yashiro? With a smile on my face, I turned my eyes back towards her. I then patted her head, almost as if scooping out some of that light for myself. Ah! Yachi! There you are! The person who spoke was my sister. She was wearing a pajama with worn-out sleeves, giving me the impression that the article in question was quite an old one. I could see a bit of steam floating out from between her skin and the bat towel hanging off her shoulders. You too, sis.
It's me.
I went as far as to make peace signs with my fingers as a joke. But sadly, this attempt at being funny was completely ignored by everyone. Come on! How many times do I have to tell you? You can't just run off before I dry your hair. Just look! You got the floor wet again.
It's warm, so I came here to cool down. Why don't you join us, Shou?
No, thank you. I don't want to get eaten by bugs. Anyway, here. I brought you some ice cream. It's Adzuki bean flavored. Your favorite.
Ah!
No sooner had my sister revealed that what she was holding behind her back than Yashiro leaped up and began galloping towards her. Where had I seen this exact thing before? The answer came to me almost immediately. Adachi. The other day, she too had used ice cream to catch the girl's attention. It was the same for her as a bait was for the fish. I distinctly remembered the way Adachi had muttered out her thoughts regarding the matter. Let's just say she hadn't sounded amused in the slightest. She'd even gone as far as to call Yashiro a, quote, a weird creature, end quote, or something akin to that. Her circle of acquaintances had definitely expanded over the past 10 years, even if only just a little bit. Was that Adachi's flight? Had I missed it? I turned to face the night sky. Come tomorrow, we'd be somewhere else entirely, under a whole different sky. Thinking about what that actually meant, what it entailed, I could feel my breathing grow slightly faster. Ooh, I was excited, but also just a bit nervous. I suppose traveling might have been one of those things that you eventually got used to once you did it enough times. Given that I'd yet to, I found myself filled with all sorts of thoughts, worries, and prayers, all of which I cast towards the night sky. Truly, emotions were best consumed fresh. The next day, I found myself munching on the cabbage slices that'd been handed to me.
Am I a rabbit too?
Yashiro was sitting there beside me with cabbage of her own, a piece of which hung out from side of her mouth. As for my sister, she was still in bed. It didn't seem like she was going to get up to say goodbye to me. I suppose it didn't really matter. I'll be coming to visit again during summer anyway. The atmosphere in the morning kitchen was very light. Unlike the sun of the summer, the one currently shining lacked the strength necessary to push people down, to make them feel oppressed. In fact, it had the exact opposite effect on me. I could feel the tiredness leave my body as I slowly grew able to move it as I please. After washing my face and putting on my makeup, I went ahead and sent Adachi a text.
Are you awake?
It only took moments for a reply to arrive.
I should be asking you that. You didn't sleep late, did you?
Who do you think you're talking to?
Seriously, what sort of a person did she see me as? That said, it was true that about half of the time, I did my morning preparations and left the house while still barely conscious. Coming to my senses only to realize that I was already on board the train that I took work was a common occurrence to me. I wonder, was it possible to fully grasp the sensation of shock that came with it? I kinda doubted that there were all that many people out there capable of such a feat.
I'm just about to head to the airport.
Me too.
Whereas it took me some time to write my reply, Adachi again, almost immediately. It almost and always been like that. I wonder, what if anything was the difference between topics as of late? One reason was why that it helped me sleep better at night. I headed towards the front door. There, I gave my bag a quick smack, and also confirmed with my own eyes that Yashiro was standing next to Mom. Alright.
Yes.
The girl asked me, sounding a bit confused.
Oh, nothing. I just wanted to make sure.
If she did what she'd done the last time, we'd be in big trouble. With my bag over my shoulder and my suitcase in hand, I pulled myself up. I could feel the entire upper half of my body trembling slightly under the weight of the luggage.
All right then. I'll be going now.
Yes, yes.
Mom waved goodbye to me. She appeared to be more focused on brushing her teeth as she was on waving. As for Yashiro, well, she was just swinging her limbs back and forth without any sort of sense to it. Today, she was a lion. This one, I was far more familiar with.
Take care.
I will.
Still, I have to say, you sure are horrible at packing luggage. A deep sigh left the woman's mouth as she stared at both me as well as the bags I was carrying, the latter taking up way more area than my body. You're not going to use even half of that!
Shut up!
Plus, it will be pretty difficult for you to bring back souvenirs! Never once had I said that I was going to be buying a honey. Well, but I guess a box of local chocolate wouldn't be too heavy.
Oopsie.
I hadn't meant to say that. Rather, the nuts had simply come out of my mouth on its own as I did my best to drag the bag with me. Need help, Grandma?
Again? Shut up!
I was being mocked like a child. That said, it was way too much effort for me to actually turn around. And so I didn't. What I did instead was push the door open. The cool morning wind brushed my eyes and my face, wiping away the last remaining bit of the sleepiness. Hogetsu! The sound of my name being called out loud pulled me to a step. This time, I did turn around, albeit in just a slightly stiff manner. I saw Ma'am standing there with her arms crossed and the toothbrush holding her mouth. That was all. I sure did give you a good name, even if I did say so myself. She was just singing her own praises. I decided to wait a few moments to see if she'd do something else. Yashiro was standing there beside her as well. Her tail swayed from side to side.
And? Is that all?
Yes, that's all. Off you go now. The woman stayed up loudly, followed by her waving her hand at me.
Oh, sure.
I muttered to myself as I turned back around and began walking away.
Seriously, what's up with that woman?
There was such thing as not caring about the wall around you and going at your own pace. And then there was it. Then again, it was true that every now and then, Adachi will say the same exact thing about me. Wait, no way was I as bad as her. At least I didn't think so. Of course that wasn't all.
Whoa!
The sudden voice was followed by an impact that caused both me and the heavy, or so I thought, luggage to shake up and down. Wearing sandals and with a toothbrush still in her mouth, Mom had latched onto me from behind. She was followed by a startled lion, chattering towards me not far behind. Have fun out there! Those words were what the woman said to me as she rattled my hair, doing so in a way that I might even be inclined to describe as being violent. And just like that, all the time I had spent doing my hair felt wasted. I wanted to stop her, to protest. However, right as I was about to do so, I noticed just how thin her arms had grown. I ended up doing nothing at all. As long as you're happy, then that's all that matters to me.
Right.
For a moment, we stayed like that. The woman continuing to mess up my hair even further. Then last until she had her fill. The toothbrush still sticking out from the corner of her mouth. A wet ring then appeared on her face. Well then, see you later. Her sentence could be heard clacking against the ground as she turned around and returned inside.
See you later!
Imitating the woman, the lion too waved me goodbye before thundering after her.
Hey! Mommy! What are we having for dinner today?
Oh, leftovers from yesterday.
Hooray!
Haha, I like you. Everything I say makes you happy. It's so simple. The two are so different, especially in terms of height, and yet they seem to get along really well. Watching them return inside, I couldn't help but find myself laughing a little as well.
I wonder.
Neither of them had changed one bit. Mom had been an adult for as long as I had been alive, and for as long as I had known her, Yashiro too had been a child. But below me and above me, I had someone completely irreplaceable. I caught myself thinking about both my sister and my father as well as I stared at the walls of the nearby buildings. All of their existence filled my heart with warmth. Whereas Adachi had completely just left her home and family behind, I didn't think that I could ever do that. Just like I discussed with Adachi, I had not visited an airport since I had still been in high school. For whatever reason, a found myself getting kinda excited as I stared at the various types of messages scrolling through the displays hanging from the ceiling. Why was that? I wonder. The floor here had been polished to a shine, leaving the red partitions that were being used in place of walls to reflect off it. All around me, I could hear a mix of footsteps, announcements, as well as the sound of machines. It appeared that there were a bit more people here than usual, which I suppose made perfect sense given that it was currently holiday season. I pulled out my phone to message Adachi. I kinda got a hunch that she might already be here waiting for me.
Shimamura.
In the next moment, my name was spoken. Despite the crowd of people around us, I still heard her voice perfectly fine. How strange. Quickly, I leave my head. A faint smile could be seen on Adachi's face as she walked over to me. The vast majority of time, it was she who showed up first, whenever we decided to meet somewhere. I kind of felt bad for always making her wait. Although that being said, even when I did try to come sooner, she still somehow managed to be there before me. Putting all that aside, what caught my eye right away was the fact that Adachi was carrying far less luggage compared to me. I raised my hand and greeted her.
Hey!
Hi.
You could see her panic a little as she attempted to match my greeting. Let's just say she fell at it pretty badly.
Adachi?
You don't think it's a little early to be acting all foreign?
Fine, fine.
I guess that was true. We not even gotten off the ground yet. But the sand floating through the airport did certainly make me feel like we were currently somewhere far away. But that's because I'd never actually experienced what it was like beyond the seas? Perhaps. I got the impression that someone like Hino might be able to answer that question.
I actually studied some English in preparation. Figured I might as well use it.
Doesn't look like you got anywhere with it, though.
Adachi mumbled quietly, pretending like I had heard her. We then set off. The sound the wheels of my suitcase made filled me with comfort. I really felt like I was moving forward.
I couldn't help but notice that you brought a lot more luggage than I did, Shimamura.
That was exactly what Mom had told me. I almost ended up grunting at her, but thankfully managed to stop myself in time.
If you ever need something, just let me know.
I got it all! I went ahead and nodded. A short laugh left Adachi's mouth. She then checked her watch before letting me know that we still had, quote-unquote, plenty of time.
If anything, I feel like we might have too much time.
Well, whatever. Wanna just talk while we wait?
Sure.
Adachi nodded, sounding more than happy to do so.
It's been a while since the last time I flew on a plane.
This comment of mine caused Adachi to hang her head. After a few moments, she then nodded slightly.
You didn't forget, did you?
I did, but I remembered it again.
Her memory was just like the traffic lights, but had a tendency to flicker on and off.
Somehow, I get the feeling that you actually remembered the whole time.
That being our first trip together, after all.
A lot sure happened, huh?
It did.
This time, she gave me a real answer without trying to act dumb. Well, I say that a lot happened, but looking at it from an objective point of view, none of those things had been particularly significant. We'd simply gone on a school trip as children tended to do and had done all the usual things. Was it really all trivial? Was it all without a point? Perhaps. And yet, despite that, I could still remember it. I felt like it was there the meaning and value of memories really showed.
Also, once we're there, I look forward to being on a boat. That should be fun. There are other things I'd like to do too, at the ocean.
I followed that statement by listing out a few of my plans. It's still very much in the development phase, prompting a faint smile to appear on Adachi's face. She really had gotten a lot better at smiling. It brought me great joy silently watching her take these small steps of progress. We spent the remaining time till the plane was ready to be boarded, staring outside through the large window next to us. We were like children, stuck to the glass. What caught my eyes was not so much the planes themselves as it was the runway. I had to squint my eyes a little as I stared at it. That's just how bright it was outside.
I've come so far. Or something.
I hadn't actually meant to say that out loud. The words simply left my mouth on their own.
We haven't even boarded the plane yet, you know.
Adachi appeared quite puzzled by my strange statement.
Right.
Once we did that, once we got on the plane, we'd be able to go somewhere even further away. But later, that was still part of a dream which I was excited to uncover. And so, we set out. We were flying together, traveling further than we ever could have as children.
Chapter 3 Hino and Nagafuji.
You ever get bored of it, Hino?
Behind me, I could hear the sound of liquid running. It was not the shower, but something else. I finished washing my hair before turning around to have a look behind me. The sides of the bathtub at our house, made of umbrella pine, were perfectly straight and together formed a rectangle. According to Nagafuji, the thing was larger than their entire bathroom put together. Speaking of Nagafuji, she was currently floating in said bathtub with her hands pressed against its rim. Her feet flopped up and down, and occasionally her butt would peek through its surface.
Of what?
I just figured since you do this every day.
She mumbled to herself while staring up at the ceiling. It almost seemed as if she was having trouble finding the right words. Her face was quite red at this point, likely because we'd spent so much time in the bath already. We were really quick when it came to washing ourselves, and yet, for some reason, the bathing part always ended up taking a while. I wonder why that was. Anyhow, it wasn't only Nagafuji's expression which appeared softened by the hot water, her remark did as well. I took a moment to think about it, but even then, I really couldn't make any sense of it.
I'm seriously not a fan of this thing where you think everything through in your head and then only state the conclusion.
I lectured her, having poured some water over my head.
That said, I also don't want to hear the whole thing. Just give me the abbreviated version.
Aren't you selfish, Hino?
For a moment, I seriously considered tossing the bucket at her.
Well, anyway, what were we talking about again?
Once more mumbling to herself, Nagafuji went ahead and pressed her cheek against the tub. She seemed like she was thinking hard about something, although at the same time, I kinda doubted that there was actually much going on in her head. This was Nagafuji we were talking about after all. A few moments later, she pulled herself up and began washing herself, starting from her arms and moving on from there. I'd never really thought about it all that much, but watching her do so, I realized that I personally always washed my body in the exact same order. I wonder, what about Nagafuji? Did she have her own ritual associated with it? I went ahead and attempted to recall the previous time we'd bathed together.
The bath. It's so big that I wonder if you find it boring when by yourself.
Nagafuji at last stated, this time doing it in a way that I could actually follow. Just as I'd thought, it really wasn't that complicated.
That's all?
Yep.
How? She spent that much time thinking about something this simple. Also,
Boring?
I went ahead and tilted my head to the side. Doing so caused my wet hair to stick against my cheek and my neck.
Boring is not really what I think about when I'm taking a bath.
What do you think about them?
Nothing. I just kind of space out. Sometimes, I wonder how the last manga I read is going to continue.
I feel like you'd be better off putting your head to use.
Stole the words from my mouth.
And yet, she always managed to get good grades at school. I had no idea what to make of that. Was I to believe she was actually smarter than I was?
What about now? What are you thinking about?
That I wish you'd stop making so much damn noise.
Nagafuji was currently splashing water all around using both of her feet.
Oh, this?
She asked, shifting her gaze towards her toes. It appeared that she was doing so on habit and hadn't been aware of it herself before my comment. Like her skin, her toes too appeared slightly reddish.
My feet shall save you from boredom.
I'd rather you not. That sounds like a pain.
Now done washing myself, I turned off the shower and walked over to the bath. There was still plenty of room left for me despite Nagafuji's size. It just went to show you how big the tub really was. I could get in wherever I wanted. And yet, for whatever reason, I always ended up cramming myself directly next to her. With my shoulders now beneath the water, I turned to face the wall and let out a laugh.
Not really using my head, am I?
A gap soon appeared by Nagafuji's side. As if it was the natural thing for me to do, I swiftly moved to fill it. This was what always happened when I didn't think.
I really like your bathtub, Hino.
You do?
Yep. I also like you.
Huh?
Albeit a bit crude, what I just received was a confession of love. I could see both Nagafuji's feet and butt move up and down.
Speaking of which,
What?
Staring directly in front of her, Nagafuji closed her mouth shut. Her feet once again began flapping. I waited a few seconds before repeating myself.
What?
sorry, I forgot what I was going to say.
Figures.
A few moments passed, after which I too began feeling the effects of the heat. I got up, having reached my limit.
I'm done.
Did you make sure to count to 10,000?
Yes.
I nodded while climbing out from the tub. For one reason or another, Nagafuji quickly followed suit. It was the night before the school trip, and here she was, at our house. What part of the trip had made her want to spend the night over? I honestly couldn't tell you.
Hino has landed.
This nonsense comment of hers was followed up by her grabbing both of my arms.
Hey, stop that. Don't grab me. Dry your hair or something.
The reason I decided to go with this response in particular over something else was quite simple. I could feel droplets of water raining down on my head. Anyway, as if prompted to do so, Nagafuji quickly turned her head around, causing those same droplets to take on the form of a blade and slash both my forehead and my cheeks. What was up with her? Seriously. Why did she always act this way? Doing my best to hide my astonishment, I circled around her and started wiping my body dry. As roomy as the bath itself was, I had to say, the changing room definitely felt a bit cramped with two people around.
Say, why did you want to take a bath with me in the first place?
She'd simply gotten in after me as if that was a perfectly normal thing to do.
Because it's fun.
You've not changed one bit over the years, have you?
The size of her breasts notwithstanding.
Plus, I figured that this bath was too big for a single person.
I'm pretty sure people usually find that to be a good thing.
Like usual, Nagafuji managed to go against common sense at the weirdest of places. We just finished putting on our clothes back on when she stated the following.
It's pretty flavorless.
Huh?
The food here.
I remembered you pointing that out earlier, she added.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure why, but my folks seem to like it that way.
The variety of the menu, or lack thereof, was honestly the worst part. Every day we always ate the same sort of stuff. It was so plain that it hurt. Like the state of our house. The traditions, too, were quite delicate that way. Both my parents and my brothers tried their absolute hardest to never deviate from the norm. It wasn't all that difficult to find these sorts of old, antiquated systems with no connection to the rest of the world if you just knew where to look. Leaving the arguments about right and wrong for another day, what I could say for sure now was that ours was definitely one of those.
Is your mom the one who cooks?
Nope. The maid does.
The only time the woman ever went to the kitchen was when she wanted to brew tea. That was if she was even home to begin with, which she wasn't for a surprising number of days. The simple act of Nagafuji drying her hair caused her chest to sway back and forth. Truly, what was becoming of mankind? I went ahead and gave the massive sacks a push from below, only for them to smack my head on the way back.
Flavorless food leaves me appetiteless.
You can say that again.
The conversation continued in the same manner for the next few moments.
And there you have it. I want souvenirs.
Aren't you a shameless one?
In spite of my response, I did end up making a quick detour by the kitchen as we left the dressing room. We should have biscuits there, if nothing else. I wonder, why did it smell like radish in here? Was it because that's what we were going to be eating tomorrow? Oh, I had to assume so. It took the maid standing before the stew pot little time to notice me.
Is something the matter?
No, nothing.
Glossing over her question, I walked over to the shelf and had a look. I quickly found just the thing I'd been looking for, and after picking up a handful, I turned around and walked away. As for tea, I was pretty sure I still had some left in my room. We could drink that, right? Yeah, we could. Back in the hallway, I shared my findings with Nagafuji, who'd been waiting for me there.
I found some candy.
Nice.
I picked these up the other day while at a tea shop collecting a delivery. Completely unrelated, but the lady there had pretty large breasts as well. Again, what was becoming of mankind? Anyway, the two of us returned to my room. Though our house did have a separate room for guests, this was where her futon had been laid. Why was that? Well, I simply felt like the title of guest didn't fit her very well. This was Nagafuji we were talking about here. No reason to use the guest room. Perhaps it was due to the bath leaving me all dizzy, but as I thought about that, I could feel myself growing just a bit emotional.
Well, which flavor do you like best?
Red?
Red isn't a flavor.
I hadn't pinched her cheek, still glistening after the long bath.
Aren't all these sugared flavored?
No, definitely not.
I picked up the 4 different types of containers the candies had come with and showed these to Nagafuji. She was left tilting her head to the side. Did she really find it that shocking? Well, I guess I couldn't blame her. This was pretty different from what you'd usually think of when you heard the word candy.
Black tea, coffee, green tea, and roasted tea?
While you did have to check the labels attached to the containers to be able to tell the candies apart due to them all lacking color and, as a result, looking the same, they were indeed different.
I feel like I sense a connection here. A tea flavored connection.
Yep. Welcome to our family.
Going through all the containers, Nagafuji ended up eventually settling on the one labeled green tea. She pulled the lid open with a satisfying pop, to which she commented as much. She then closed the lid. I'd barely managed to ask her why when she opened the container again, only to close it immediately afterwards. Ugh, the sound. She was enjoying the sound.
Hey, stop messing around and eat.
Mm.
A dejected mumble left her mouth as she put the lid down. Ugh, she was always like this, loitering at every opportunity. As if trying it out, Nagafuji took a single piece of candy and slowly placed it in her mouth. I stared from the side as her fingertips, still red after the bath, squeezed the green ball of delight. No sooner had she finished chewing than her eyes shot wide.
Mmm.
She grabbed 2 more, then 3, and just kept going from there. A smile of satisfaction appeared on her face as she finished chewing, after which she stated the following in a very high-pitched tone of voice.
Mmm. These are good. Really good.
They'd better be, considering how much they cost.
Yes. Yes.
Having said that, she continued eating. There was something about watching her do so that made me feel quite relaxed. As for me, I picked up the plastic bottle filled with tea I'd mentioned earlier. It was pretty warm at this point, having spent such a long time outside of the fridge.
Want some?
Sure.
I handed the bottle to Nagafuji. After taking a sip, she shifted her gaze to me.
You're not in the good mood for candy, Hino?
I'm fine. I can't be bothered to brush my teeth again.
How about I brush them for you then?
I went ahead and imagined what that would be like.
Idiot.
Well, anyway, I guess I'll just eat these myself.
Nagafuji went ahead and grabbed more candy. No signs of apology could be seen in her eyes. In order to save some for myself, and also to avoid getting in trouble later on, I quickly removed the remaining containers away from her reach before she could get her hands on them.
Looking forward to the school trip?
Not especially.
Ever been to Kushu before?
Nope. We don't really travel within the country. Apparently, it's not interesting enough.
I see. I see.
What a weak reaction. Despite having been the one to initiate the conversation, it seemed that she found munching candy to be far more enticing.
Where was it that you went not all that long ago?
Hawaii. I got you a souvenir.
And before that?
Italy also got you a souvenir from there.
And what about before that?
It felt like she was just asking for the sake of it. Between her fingers, she held a piece of candy shaped like a star. I went ahead and stated the following.
Why don't you try remembering for yourself? You should know me well enough to tell.
And to think that's just moments earlier, she'd told me to use my head. Nagafuji froze in place. To me, what I'd said felt like a completely ordinary statement, and yet she was acting as if it went far beyond that. After a few moments of silence, she at last spoke.
Right. That's how it is.
These words of hers were followed by a short giggle.
Hmm?
Yep.
She nodded, sounding genuinely gleeful. It almost felt to me like she enjoyed this more than she did the candy. If I had to guess, I'd say that wasn't just my imagination. Her fingers moved through the air, and so did the piece of candy pinched between them.
You really are cute, Hino.
Stop it. Don't just say stuff like that.
You're always touching my boobs. Maybe one day, I'll do the same for you.
Is your brain seriously that smooth?
We'd had dinner, taken a bath together, and now indulged in pointless conversation till it came time for us to go to bed. It felt as if the school trip had already gotten started.
Whee! Whee!
The end.
Ending